Hi, this is Catherine Menachino from Elevate for Self-Love, a channel where we discuss self-love, self-respect, self-confidence, and healing after toxic relationships. Today's topic is going to be reactive abuse. It is the reaction to abuse that someone may act out if they're in a toxic relationship or right after a toxic relationship. So I'm going to explain all the facets of that, what it means, is it good or bad, where it comes from, and so forth. Before I get into today's topic though, please subscribe to my channel by pressing the bell icon. And at the end, like and share this video if it resonated with you. So reactive abuse is something that can happen in a toxic relationship within the confines of the relationship, or it could be afterwards. And it definitely can happen after the breakup of a toxic relationship when the people are going back and forth. If there was some sort of toxic or abusive dynamic, then reactive abuse can be very prevalent. So, what happens in a toxic relationship or relationship with someone who's a narcissist, who's very self-centered and entitled, is as time goes on, you are with that person continuously and you're focusing on their needs mostly. You're not focusing on your own needs. You are stifling your own needs, but you don't even realize that because you become so focused on pleasing them because they never seem to be happy. They never seem to be satisfied. So you are constantly trying to figure them out, trying to diagnose them. Maybe they're bipolar. Maybe they have Asperger's. Maybe they have this. You're trying to get them to go to therapy, and maybe if they go to a therapist, then they're not going to be the way they are towards you. And let's say if they disrespect you, if they lack any consideration towards you, if they treat you like you're a burden or, a real pain. That happened to me in my last relationship where I felt like a burden. Like this person was didn't even have want to make time for me. When they made time for me, then they would act like it was doing me a favor. So they made it like, oh, they did me a favor, like they were making time for me. And prior to that, let's say before this relationship, I would have never, ever accepted that kind of behavior from someone. But something occurs during this kind of toxic relationship, and it's called a trauma bond. So many of you know what that is. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is when someone acts very loving and nice and kind and caring, and then the next minute or the next day, they act like a jerk, and they are abusive, they are inconsiderate, they are selfish, and they are unloving. So it could be in the form of, doing disrespectful things, saying disrespectful things, saying things that make you feel insulted in some way. It could be passive aggressiveness. It doesn't even have to be necessarily an overt disrespect, but it could be like a passive aggressive comment or something that makes you wonder hey, what's that about? It doesn't make any sense. That was definitely my experience in the period of time where the trauma bond was developed, let's say. It was this really nice guy who was just couldn't do enough for me and loving towards me. And then, when I would say, hey, let's talk about our future, then he would scream at me or get angry or walk away or break up with me. So it was just this weird, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's 100% how I can explain it. And I know that those of you who have gone through this, you'll know. So that built a trauma bond. A trauma bond is the bond between the abuser and the abused. And it is very strong because it's based on intermittent reinforcement. So those of you who know what intermittent reinforcement is, it's the most powerful form of behavioral conditioning and reinforcement. And to explain it further, essentially it's when they've done studies, psychological studies, that they have found that intermittent reinforcement is number one with, let's say, perpetuating a behavior. So if you are doing intermittent reinforcement, that's how like hardcore addiction begins. People that are addicted to gambling, it's because when you play a slot machine, sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. That's intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes you get a positive reward and sometimes you don't. That's what makes the bond and that behavior like cementing, because you never know what you're going to get, and you keep thinking, I will get the reward. I will get this person in the relationship to love me. I will get this person in the relationship to be excited about a future. I will get this person in the relationship to respect me again. They used to respect me. Yesterday they respected me. Today they can respect me. Maybe I just need to do this. Maybe I just need to do that. And we get so caught up in ourselves and trying to do whatever we can to fix this relationship. I became like a fixer. It was like, if I could do this, I can help him fix himself. I can help fix this relationship, and things are going to work out because he really loves me. And I had this like underlying belief all along that he really loved me. Come to find out later that this type of person really can't love in a healthy, normal way, and they don't bond. So I couldn't understand at the end how he had barely any remorse or like longing for me. And that was because he cannot bond like a normal human. That like in a healthy way. He's defective. So he wasn't capable of that. And he could have been capable of that if he had gone to therapy and like actually acknowledged this, but he doesn't. He goes to therapy and he denies reality and doesn't actually solve the real issues. He just sort of talks a lot, and I don't think the therapist really understands the extreme level of how damaged he is. And it's because of his childhood trauma. It's not his fault, really. It's not his fault that it happened. It's just his fault that it stays this way, because it's his own responsibility as an adult to remedy what happened when he was a child and fix the damage it's done to him. And then he wouldn't be damaging other people like he damaged me. So we spend so much time in these relationships when we are being emotionally abused, narcissistically abused by a toxic person, narcissist, and we forget about ourselves completely. We forget about our own needs because we're just so focused on trying to make everything okay and make everything good. So over time, what happens is you feel stifled. So over time, you're holding back on having your needs met, for 1 day, for 10 days, for 30 days, for 6 months, for a year. All this time goes on, and you're doing everything you can to meet the needs of this other person and make them happy. And they're not meeting your needs. And not only that, they're actually abusing you in various ways. So it's like you're stifling your needs for so long, you're holding it in for so long, and you're not getting the let's say the payoff that you thought you were going to get. If you met their needs, that they would meet yours. So it becomes almost like a ticking time bomb, and that you have this pent up resentment towards this person who's abusing you because you don't understand why. You think, okay, they have the potential to be good to me. They were good to me, let's say yesterday. And yet today, they're not good to me and they don't want to meet my needs. Why? Why am I not good enough? Why can I not have this person treat me the same loving, kind way all the time? Why can't they be consistent? I'm trying to meet all their needs. I'm trying to compromise with them. I'm trying to, make life easier for them and get along with them. And yet they're still not willing to meet my needs. At the time, you don't realize it's just that person is incapable. They just can't do it because they have their own issues that cause them to sabotage a decent relationship. So the more flexible you are and the more you compromise with them and the more you love them and try to sort of selflessly give, they start to resent you and hate you because they think you're weak. And they also lose so much respect for you because of this. So I I experienced that, and I think it's a slippery slope because it's this idea like they believe that if only you were the right one, aka perfect, then things would work out. But they don't realize that they're the ones who need to work on themselves and be more flexible and be less selfish. And, they don't need, this doesn't even occur to them. So just the point is with this is that you are stifling your feelings and holding back from getting your needs met for all this time. Let's say months or years, right? So this becomes like inside you, like a volcano about to explode, let's say. And you may be the kindest, most considerate person. Like I feel like I'm a really kind and considerate person, and I'm a very loving person. But there's just like this point where you may break and you just can't do it anymore. Like you can't have patience with them anymore. You can't allow them to walk on you anymore. And that happened to me. At a certain point, I became verbally abusive towards him, and I had no patience anymore. And I was just so angry. And that's normal though. So this is called reactive abuse. So it's when you are maybe abusive to someone else because you're reacting to their abuse. Because, it's like if someone is bullied, a kid is bullied on a playground, if they don't like stand up for themselves, they're just going to keep getting bullied and bullied. And after a while, most people know like that kid's going to flip out and fight back, right? Even the kid might for a long time get bullied and not do anything about it. At some point, most people get to a level where they have a limit to what they can handle. And I had a limit to the amount of disrespect and disregard that this person could throw at me. So, the fact that he was playing all these games with talk about the future, but then going back on it and then turning it around, and he didn't have a solid plan for our future, and he kept leading me on and using me, I felt like it was important to basically, everyone has a limit. And again, you've been like in a prison for so long, basically dealing with someone who's not meeting your needs and is literally sweeping your needs under the carpet and acting like they don't matter. So I think it's normal for in a human, at a certain point in time, you get angry. Because at a certain point in time, no matter how you try to get rid of that anger or not be angry at that person, over a long period of being treated that way, ultimately you rebel. You want to be angry. You become angry, and that's actually the impetus to get you out of the situation. Usually something happens that makes you really angry. It's something you can no longer deal with. It's crossing a line. Like my ex crossed a line, and even though we had been broken up and I broke up with him, we were still talking, and I still had hope that we would get back together until he crossed a line that was never to be, we were never be able to go back after he did what he did to me. It was very unfair. It was immature. It was childish. And it was, number one, it was cowardly, very cowardly. I think abusers and narcissists and any of these toxic people are just cowards. They're afraid to face their own issues and fix them. And then they're also going to make themselves the victim and turn everything around because they're not brave enough to do something different. So when you've been in this for a long time, I think it's normal. I think you can get angry. I think anger is healthy to a point where you finally, it's like almost like being trapped like in a cage, and then you get out of the cage. You break out of the cage. You're so angry, you break the cage. And you get out of the cage. And that's how it feels when you finally start breaking the trauma bond between you and this person. The anger is what's going to help break the trauma bond. That anger, it is a driver. And you can't obviously use that anger in a negative way. So you may, get angry at this person and say a lot of things that you don't mean. I did that. But after that, you have to use this anger in a different way. So afterwards, I began running. I started to really use like that that anger and that energy for myself in a positive way, and to also motivate me to do no contact. So I really had no problem doing no contact with my ex, because I was so angry that was enough to just make me like, it was as if he just died in my mind. He just totally was gone. It was as if he never existed. And I can look back at the experience now and I can say, yes, like, you know, it was a horrible experience and I was really angry for a long period of time. I'm not angry like that now, but that anger is what got me to not contact this person. And that anger is what got me to start moving past this and start getting to a better place where where I was putting my life back together. But anger is a normal emotion, and I think we need to remember that reactive abuse is real. So when people are faced with an abuser, psychologically they've been on the bottom of the totem pole with this abuser, and this abuser's been up here. So this abuser's power over this person has been pushing them down and pushing them down and controlling them and controlling them. Ultimately, this person down here, you know, most people will have a backbone. At some point, they push back, and that's reactive abuse. So, you know, if you've questioned, am I a narcissist, or am I the one who's a bad toxic person because I did some bad toxic things? No, you're not a narcissist. You maybe did some toxic, abusive things, but you made some mistakes, and it probably was nothing near what the abuser did to you, because they were doing it to you for a long time and they have no remorse. That's what makes them a narcissist. They don't have accountability. They'll never admit what they did. They'll never display remorse. They'll never make amends. You know, people that like actually go to someone and apologize and say, I'm so sorry, like I shouldn't have done this. That is a sign of someone who is not a narcissist. So like, for instance, the last time I saw my ex, I had gone there to apologize because I had sent him some text messages that were not so nice. And I felt bad. He would never do something like that. He actually did something really horrible to me at that point. You know, something I'll never forget. But that being said, anger and fighting back when you've been bullied is normal. You know, that's supposed to happen. Like you can't get pushed down and pushed down and pushed down for so long, and like controlled by these people for so long, and not eventually explode into anger, because it's like you've been controlled all this time. And when you've been controlled for so long, it's like you don't even realize you're being controlled. I didn't even realize how controlled I was, because this person had been future faking with me. So they had been telling me that we had this future, and it was just, they had to accomplish, you know, a few things in their life, and then it became more things in their life, and then we were going to have a future together and move things along in our relationship. And I kept waiting. It was like waiting for this to happen in his life. And then it was, oh no, now he has to do this before we get engaged. And then he had to do that before we get engaged, and before we move in together. And so ultimately I was like living my life on someone else's terms. So like what I wanted, like I wanted to be engaged. I wanted to live together. I wanted to have a life together. I wanted to be happy about it and be excited and have something to look forward to with our lives merging. But he didn't want that. And in fact, he looked at that, like our lives merging together, in like the most negative way. And this is when I started realizing something must be really wrong with him, because I think I'm a pretty fair and great girlfriend. So I knew like, okay, something is weird, because most people would look forward to a life together with someone that they supposedly love. And this person is looking at marriage and moving things along like he's going to go to jail. And that's not at all what I think being married to me would be like. And so for so many years, I was just controlled by his timeline. Like I just said, okay. I was just submissive. And I just I just placated and said like, yeah, that's good. And I'll wait. And I was so patient. I was so understanding. I was so compassionate about his issues and never, really pushed too hard for a commitment because I felt like he should want to commit to me of his own accord, not realizing that he can't because he's messed up. And, he'll tell you all day long, and maybe your partners or ex-partners did too. They'll blame you. So it's like this thing where the toxic or narcissist person will blame the partner, or they'll blame incompatibility. And it's funny because it's like, if you're not perfect and you're not like that Disney, it's not a Disney movie perfect relationship, then somehow this narcissist or toxic person will devalue you and they'll make you into not good enough because they just need to somehow sabotage things and get out of this because they can't actually get to the finish line. They're not emotionally capable of sustaining a healthy, intimate, close relationship with someone, that they don't even want that. They really just want like the surface perks, and the deeper stuff is not really, necessarily something they even desire. So I hope today's video about reactive abuse made you feel a little bit more consoled in case you have reacted towards your toxic person or narcissist in an abusive or like angry way. I hope you understand that that's normal after being held in a controlled box for so long and now you're getting out. So, this is a normal thing of someone who's been controlled for so long, who finally snaps out of it, basically, like snapping out of being controlled. So, again, if you like this video, please like and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.